Well, a lot of interesting tactics in Central Florida. Now let's travel into Swamp Country and discuss the Florida Gators. Led by head coach Will Muschamp, the Gators finished the year 500 after losing to FSU in Gainesville for their annual rivalry match. Humbly accepting a glorified home game in Jacksonville, UF defeated the Ohio State Buckeyes in the 2012 Gator Bowl, 24-17. Ariel, what is brewing in the Swamp this spring?
There's a heavy quarterback competition brewing in the Swamp. You have Oviedo, Florida product, Jeff Driscoll, and then you have Palm Beach native Jacoby Brissett. Now, because of the fact that Charlie Weiss, the former offensive coordinator, he left Florida to become the new Kansas head coach, the Florida Gators, while they're having this quarterback competition, they're also implementing a new offense, which is doubly as tough, under former Boise State offensive coordinator and new Florida offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach Brent Pease. Now, so far in spring, it's kind of been the situation that Brissett looks like more of the polished pocket passer, while Driscoll looks like he can make more big plays with his mobility out of the pocket. So that's an interesting competition to look at headed into the summer, which right now in the spring it's a dead heat. Muschamp has focused a lot of spring practice on situational football. The reason why is because the Florida Gators were 3-4 last year in games decided by 2 points or less. They also play in arguably the toughest conference in the country in the SEC, so close, nail-biting games are going to be the norm. So situational football has been a big emphasis for the Florida Gators. Florida's also looking for more playmakers on the outside. You know, they're losing Chris Rainey. They have Burden and everything, but they need more guys on the outside to kind of step up and help out those quarterbacks in this new offense that they're implementing to be able to make big plays. One bright spot for the Florida Gators has been their defense. Their defense was kind of shaky last year at times. You know, Will Muschamp is a defensive guy. That's where he hangs his hat. They're looking more comfortable with applying the concepts that Muschamp and the defensive coaches are wanting to implement. Also, they're adjusting at the line of scrimmage much quicker, which is very important for them this spring. One more thing to look at for the Florida Gators is cornerback Loucheiz Purifoy. He played very well on special teams last year, and late in the year, especially in the Gator Bowl, the coaches were like, hey, we got to get this guy on the field on defense. And he produced well in the Gator Bowl. The coaches really want to see this guy do well and get more time on the field, so look out for him to make a big impact for the Florida Gators next year.
All right, well, bringing it home, now heading back across I-10 into Leon County, we'll start with the Orange and Blue's bitter enemies, the Florida State Seminoles. FSU was perhaps the most successful squad in FLA last season, not only capturing the State of Florida championship by beating UM and UF in the same season, but by topping the Notre Dame Fighting Irish in dramatic fashion during the Champs Sports Bowl, 18-14. They finished with a respectable 9-4 record. Ariel, how are the Noles looking to build off last year's success this spring?
They're looking, to do some big things, and obviously there's a lot of anticipation in Tallahassee, as it usually is around this time every year, especially since Jimbo has been here. Jimbo, especially after the first scrimmage, he thinks that his team is big and athletic, but he wants to see more physicality on both sides of the ball. Now, that's not uncommon during this type of year, but that's something that you want to look into. Are they, being more physical? Are they kind of bringing that wood in practice, especially leading into the summer? Now, one thing that's been a big deal this year in spring camp has been the move of former defensive lineman Cameron Irving over to the offensive line. He's been raved by all his coaches as well as his new offensive line teammates because of his natural footwork, and it almost seems like he's a natural at offensive line. He's been doing very well. Also, JUCO standout Daniel Glouser, he's been doing pretty good as well in spring camp. He's basically battling it out with Irving for that starting left tackle spot. So that's another competition to look closely at. Carlos Williams, he's been taking advice from his big brother Vince Williams, who's a linebacker for FSU. He's been in the playbook this spring, something that he admits he wasn't doing as much last year because he saw a lot of guys ahead of him. But he wants to get in the playbook early and often so that he can be more comfortable and be ready to contribute at safety. He declined actually a move to running back this spring during the offseason, which is something that was on the table. He played running back in high school, but he wanted to stay at safety. Also, you have Tyler Hunter. He has a big role to fill. He may end up being the starting nickel corner, replacing senior Mike Harris. That's another person to look out for. Expect Rashad Green as well to have a much more improved and bigger role in the offense based upon early season performances last year, late season performances, especially, the big game against Notre Dame in the Champs Sports Bowl. The coaches want to get him the ball more often. Now, Rodney Smith, the wide receiver, big wide receiver, he's been focusing on his route running this spring. Last spring, he really used that as a coming out party, especially the spring game. He really kind of showed that, hey, he can be a playmaker for the Florida State Seminoles on the outside. He's been studying tape of Jerry Rice, Calvin Johnson, guys like that, so he can improve his route running, make that, a real strong point in his game. One more person to look out for on the offense is redshirt freshman Kelvin Benjamin. This guy's from Belgrade, Florida, 6'6", really big guy, over 240, but chiseled. He's got some good speed, has good body control. He's quietly kind of becoming a guy that people, the pundits, media, are, especially coaches too, and guys on the team, they're talking about. He could be another target for quarterback E.J. Manuel and the Florida State Seminoles to make some noise next year.
All right, well, last but most certainly not least, we'll round out our spring ball review with the Florida A&M Rattlers. FAMU was one of the few Sunshine State collegiate teams to have a winning record by going 7-4 of the year. But alas, a gut-wrenching loss to rivals Bethune-Cookman in the annual Florida Classic by the count of 26-16 eliminated the Rattlers from postseason contention. Ariel, what is the news coming out of the FAMU football program this spring?
Good news. Head coach Joe Taylor, he's a tough customer and a tough person to please, but he's actually been pleased with the FAMU Rattlers football team. The reason why starts off with the fact that they worked hard in the offseason. There were a lot of team records that were broken during the offseason, including nose guard Patrick Scott. He benched 520 pounds as a max, and then he went and benched 225 38 times. That's NFL type stuff right there. That's also team records. Safety John Ojo, he also did a vertical leap of 41.5 inches. That was a record also. So that was something that was really big for FAMU, showing that they were working hard in the offseason and they're ready to put it out on the field. Now, Memphis transfer Tyler Bass, he's been looking really good in the offseason as well as in the spring. Really crisp passing, balls coming off his hand quick and hard. He's been facilitating the first and second team offenses really well, giving Damian Fleming that push that he needs. However, Damian Fleming, he's really the undisputed leader. He added 15 pounds to his frame. And because of the fact that he's not playing basketball, he's not in high school anymore, and he played basketball in high school, he's just focusing on football. He's really becoming an undisputed leader, showing that work ethic that you need from your starting quarterback. Head coach Joe Taylor is really pleased with Damian Fleming as well. Now the D-line, the coaches kind of want to see more push off of the line from the D-line. They're doing okay, but they want to continue to see them develop and progress. Also, wide receiver Linworth Lennon, he's a guy to look out for. He had a decent year last year. Wide receiver Kevin Elliott and wide receiver Brian Timms have departed, so he's going to have a bigger role in the offense. And he's already in midseason form, not summer form, midseason form. This guy's coming out of breaks good, he's cutting sharp, juking guys, catching everything. He's really being a leader in the wide receiver drills. So FAMU, they're looking really good heading into the summer.
Good to hear. All right, well, with football being a staple in the state of Florida, many fans will flock to their fan schools for spring games, sprouting all over the place where the sawgrass meets the sky. On Saturday, April 7th, FAMU will have its orange and green spring game, along with the Florida Gators hosting its orange and blue debut. On the next Saturday, April 14th, Miami and UCF will each have their spring games at 2 p.m., with FSU hosting its Garnet and Gold spring game at 4 p.m., which will air on ESPN3. Finally, the USF Bulls will play their spring game on Saturday, April 21st in Raymond James Stadium. For more info on collegiate football, make sure to head to franchisesportsonline.net. With Ariel Bedford, this is Bria Kelly with Franchise Sports.